Hey, Eagle fans, I'm Thomas Mott. Let's jump into the latest Philadelphia Eagles news and rumors here on a Monday, as there's a lot of things going on with our Philadelphia Eagles as the offseason continues to roll along, as it's almost done with May, and then we get into June, and before you know it, training camp is going to be here. Let's start with Julio Jones. Let's talk about Julio Jones, because I get a lot of questions on my Twitter account, @RealThomasMott, asking Thomas, Julio Jones seems disgruntled in Atlanta. He wants out of the ATL. Why can't Philadelphia trade for him, right? They have the money to be able to do so, right? Well, let's talk about that. So if you've not heard, there are reports that Atlanta is not only looking to trade Julio Jones, but they are actively trying to field phone calls in order to trade the star wide receiver because Atlanta has no money. And Julio Jones has costed them a bunch of money against the cap space in 2021. He's aging, and so getting rid of him would obviously help them out long term. Now, a news source this weekend came out and said, out of NBC Sports in Boston, that Julio Jones wants to play with Cam Newton, which is a whole different development because Cam Newton is the one-year contract starter for now. Mac Jones was drafted in 2021 at the NFL draft in New England, so I guess he wants to go play for the Patriots, but how does this all tie back in with Philadelphia? Well, the expected cost being a 2022 second-round draft pick and the idea of the Eagles having enough money to make a trade has some people speculating that Philadelphia could be in on Julio Jones. And again, big-time speculation here, not any sort of actual sourcing with regards to Philadelphia. Now, the weekend tweet from Dov Kleiman, the NFL reporter on Twitter, is kind of revealing on why he wants to leave Atlanta, and so we'll throw that up on the screen right now. Quote, the hashtag Patriots have had internal discussions about trading for the Falcons wide receiver Julio Jones. According to Mike Giardi, NBC Sports Boston, added that Julio really wants to play with Cam Newton. It is also added that Jones believes that quarterback Matt Ryan has lost, quote, a little zing on his deep ball, end quote. That's a lot, and that's a lot for a lot of fans in Atlanta. But again, tying it back into Philadelphia, Philadelphia's not had a number one wide receiver in a long time. I mean, T.O. was the last time Philadelphia truly had a number one wide receiver on their roster. They've had some good ones in the past, peak Deshaun Jackson, peak Alshon Jeffrey, and I think Devonta Smith will eventually be a number one wide receiver. But I guess the thought process is here, if you wanted to give Jalen Hurts the most success possible from a wide receiver standpoint, then maybe you go ahead and go for a guy like Julio Jones, who we of course understand, even though he's on the wrong side of 30, is still one of the elite receivers in the National Football League, if not the elite receiver, in the NFL. I'll ask this, though, first before I give you my thoughts on all of this. Would you trade for Julio Jones? Like, if you're an Eagle fan right now and you understand the cap space and the money and the draft picks that he would take, would you go ahead and do it? If you would, type Y down below for yes. If you would not, go ahead and type N down below for no. Now, my thought process all along in this from a Philadelphia Eagle perspective is now is not the time for Julio Jones. Now, if this would have been Carson Wentz 2016, Carson Wentz 2017, Carson Wentz 2018, even Carson Wentz last year, you could make a real legitimate argument that Philadelphia should go ahead and add Julio Jones because they had nothing at wide receiver, and an elite talent for a young quarterback is always very, very, I would say, intriguing for any organization. When I say now is not the time for Julio Jones, I'm meaning that right now, Philadelphia very much so is in a bridge year. Now, this year they can win football games. We talked about that. They have a lot of young talent on the roster, and Julio would definitely help them be better, but would Julio Jones be the missing piece to make them a Super Bowl contender in 2021? No, probably not. I want Devonta Smith to take the reins and be the number one wide receiver in this offense, and I think he can do that and still could do that alongside Julio Jones, but when you look at the future of Philadelphia, the future is not a 33-year-old wide receiver in the backside of his career. The future is young talent with a lot of money and cap space to go ahead and sign players of need, as well as drafting positions of need as well in the future upcoming 2022 NFL draft. Now, if you are wondering about cap space, Philadelphia has about $11 million in cap space right now, and if you were to trade for Julio Jones, his cap hit is about $11 million in 2021, so you could make it work, right? You could move around some Fletcher Cox money, and essentially you could sign him if you wanted to. But I think the issue, again, is that even though the Eagle wide receiver depth chart isn't spectacular by any means, it's a lot better than where it's been, and I want to see these guys go in and compete, be young, as they are, compete and get better, because this could become a very good wide receiver core around and alongside Jalen Hurts. Again, I'm not against trading for a star wide receiver. I think I'm against trading for an aging star wide receiver, especially right now in the Jalen Hurts career where we just want him to be good next year, right? I mean, going to a Super Bowl would be fantastic, but most of us in Philadelphia with level heads realize that that's not going to be a possibility with the current roster that you have, and so we want them to build a Super Bowl championship team instead of trying to trade for, future Hall of Famers who are a little bit too old, especially at a wide receiver position. So I'm out on Julio Jones. Nothing against Julio Jones. He would, of course, make Philadelphia better. I want to see Devonta Smith shine as the number one wide receiver, and I want to see Jalen Hurts be able to grow in this offense, have great young pieces around him. That way they're competitive not just in 2021, but in 2022, and 2023, and, of course, beyond that. Before we go ahead and keep going, I mentioned Devonta Smith. Go ahead and pick up his official NFL jersey, right? Because instead of hopping all in on Julio, because if they did trade for him, you only get him to keep his jersey for like a year. Devonta Smith will hopefully be an Eagle for the next couple of years, hopefully the next 10 years, right? Maybe a lifer in Philadelphia. You can get his jersey right now in all the different sizes. Chatsports.com/Devonta. That link will be down below right now in the description box. And you can, of course, pick up the men's sizes, the ladies' sizes, the kids' sizes, all different sizes, colors that you want. You can go ahead and rep it right now because there will be fans in the stands in Philadelphia for all the Eagle games this year, according to everything we've heard. And if you want to be repping our newest Eagle with the number 10 overall draft pick, Devonta Smith, go ahead and pick one up right now at chatsports.com/Devonta. Let's move into some good news here and some good legit news we have actual reporting on. That's not Julio Jones speculation, right? This is actual hard evidence that Brandon Brooks is back. Now you say, Thomas, Brandon Brooks, what do you mean? He's back, right? We saw him on the practice field a little bit towards the end of last year. Yes, but he's back out on the practice field, at least was on the practice field for phase 2 of their offseason workouts last week. And all reports there say he looks fantastic and should be 100% healed from that Achilles injury suffered less than a year ago. I mean, it was June of last year when he tore that Achilles, popped it out of place. And of course, the fact he's going to be 100% for training camp is wonderful news. It's really, really good news. And it's news that all Eagle fans should know and be excited about because they get a lot of questions the current status of Brandon Brooks. And let me just tell you, he's looking pretty darn good. And it wasn't just last week. He's looked good the entire offseason. Lane Johnson had this quote about a couple of weeks ago when asked about Brandon Brooks, and he said, quote, I know he's excited coming off that injury last year. As far as being cooped up and ready to go, man, he's a ball of energy. And yeah, having Jason Kelce back too, so we're eager to get out there and perform. We're going to keep our quarterback clean and get this offense rolling. You know up front is where it starts, and we're eager to get the job done. So last year was unacceptable, and we're here to change that. End quote. So that is great news in terms of the Brandon Brooks injury. And of course, Lane Johnson with the quote there, he has also been fully medically cleared. This happened this past Thursday as well. I throw that up on your screen. Of course, he had the ankle injury, which he tried to play through a lot last year. Finally had surgery in December, and he has been fully medically cleared again last Thursday, which means that the entire right side of the offensive line is going to be 100% healthy. And this is arguably one of the top 5 right sides of an offensive line in the National Football League when healthy. I mean, Brooks is an all-pro right guard, and Lane Johnson is a top right tackle in the National Football League, and the Eagles are better when they are out there. This Eagle offensive line will be top 5 in the NFL. And it will start up front with Kelce being the center coming back, Sayamalu being healthy at left guard as he was not very healthy this past season. And then whoever wins out the left tackle spot will be a whole different thing. But this will be a top 5 offensive line, and it's going to dramatically improve the Eagles' chances of winning football games this year. They'll be able to run the football, and they'll be able to, most importantly, protect Jalen Hurts, something they were completely unable to do with Carson Wentz over the past 2 seasons, but it was all magnified last year when all of the injuries went down. So to put a bow on the offensive line, the health is back. It hopefully will stay there. And again, just because they get healthy today does not mean they'll be healthy week 1. But as long as they can get through training camp in the first couple weeks of the season without any sort of injuries, this will be a top 5 offensive line. And the fact that we are getting the news coming out this past week that Brooks looks great on the sideline and running around the field during their phase 2 of offseason workouts is, to me, very, very exciting news. Now, what is your level of confidence in the Eagles' offensive line right now? Now, mine's sky high because they're healthy. Scale of 1 to 10. What is your level of confidence in the Eagles' O-line? I would put my level of confidence at an 8, at a 9. I mean, it is way up there. Let me know what you guys think down below right now in the comments section. I'll jump into another story here regarding our Philadelphia Eagles, and this comes via a Peter King Monday Morning Quarterback article that came out today, where he ranked all 32 NFL teams heading into the start of the 2021 NFL offseason as they currently stand, right? Post-draft free agency. We see what the rosters look like. Most of them will remain the same, and he ranked every single team's positionally from 1 all the way to 32 based on how good they can be in 2021. Now, he put Philadelphia at 28, which is why we're talking about this, because it seems very, very low. But at the same time, he did mention that Philadelphia did a good job in the offseason and calls it a rebuilding year in Philly. And I think that even though 28 is a little bit disrespectful based on what the Eagles were last year and the huge question marks at head coach and quarterback, I mean, they got a lot of question marks regardless of how we feel about Sirianni and Jalen Hurts. I think that he is probably accurate about the ranking. It's just weird who we are around right now in that ranking. Now, I'll show you that here in just 1 second. But if you want actual coverage of your Eagles, instead of some national writer like Peter King giving a little blurb here and there on Philadelphia, make sure you guys are subscribed in there right now to the channel, because we only cover Philadelphia. That's all we do here. Every single day on the channel, essentially, we come out with new Eagle videos to go ahead and keep you guys up to date. The latest Eagles news and rumors will help us out by going down below, hitting the free red subscribe button, which of course is right down below. Okay. Again, he put us at 28, which is low. I mean, that's bottom 5 in the National Football League, but I don't think that means he's going to think we're going to finish bottom 5, right? I mean, so we're around Jacksonville at 29, Detroit at 30, the Jets at 31, the Texans at 32. Philadelphia's a better roster than every single one of those teams. I know Jacksonville and the Jets had really, really good drafts. I think Jacksonville is close to being a lot better than they have been. I mean, that's a 7 or 8 win football team with Trevor Lawrence alone, not to mention Tim Tebow, right? Wink, wink. However, I do think that Philadelphia deserves to be higher and will be higher once we get closer to the season because the roster is very talented. But I also want to just emphasize that Peter King putting us here, being a national writer, makes sense just because they were so bad last year in 2020. Here was his quick quote on the little blurb that he wrote, and again, it's just a short blurb from Peter King here on Philadelphia. Quote, the Eagles have some long-term problems, like the state of an aging offensive line and some significant age on the defensive front. I do like the Ryan Kerrigan addition, at least for one bridge year. A bridge year, the Eagles hope to a brighter future after an offseason of mayhem, end quote. Now, he's not wrong. It was an offseason of mayhem, but I think he's undervaluing right now the current talent of Philadelphia. The Eagles have plenty of talent. Like we've talked about it a lot here on the channel. They're loaded at running back. They have a top 5 offensive line. They're young at wide receiver, but they at least have promise this year. I know that the entire train will run on the tracks of Jalen Hurts, whether he wants them to go forward or backwards. That's yet to be seen. Defensive line is stacked. Linebackers are better than what they were last year. The secondary looks pretty darn good, at least from a safety perspective. Left side cornerback, number 2 behind Darius Slay, is the only real concern on this football team right now. Yes, there are question marks, but the talent is there. And if they can mold this talent, it's going to be, to me, a much better football team than 28th in the National Football League, as you see what Peter King has before us. But again, that's how national writers work, right? National media members only look at the 5,000-foot view, and we do, of course, as Eagle fans, the 60,000-foot view, and we can see the entire roster, and we know all the details behind it. And, of course, I think you and I know that Philadelphia a lot better now than they were in 2020. I'll finish on this. How many wins for the Eagles in 2021? What do you think? I mean, I think right now you got to get to 8, and then we'll see what happens after that, right? Be competitive for a playoff spot. Be competitive in the NFC East. I say that every single day here on the channel. Let me know how many wins Philadelphia will have this year in the comment section down below. Ultimate for today here on the channel. As of course, again, want to make sure you guys to go ahead and give that comment down below for how many wins you think Philadelphia will have.